My name's Cody Adams and this is my story. So I was born where I live currently on the Gold Coast, Australia. I was born into a really good family. My parents unfortunately split up when I was 4. So I didn't really know any different, like going to school and I'd go over to my friends' houses and their parents would be like both there and I'd be like, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Back in that day, not that it was too long ago, no one's parents were really split up. It was very weird, but I didn't think anything of it because, I don't really have any memories of my parents together. So I was week on, week off, 1 week with my mum, 1 week with my dad. For primary school, I went to a private Christian school. I'm not religious, neither are my parents. So I don't actually know why I went there. I think they were just trying to send me to a good school for a good upbringing and they sort of settled on that. I have an older sister who's 4 years older than me and I have a younger brother who is 7 years younger than me. I was a pretty athletic kid, pretty sporty. I played soccer and AFL and then I went on to play rugby league as I got a little bit older. I was pretty good at all of them, pretty coordinated. If you give me something with a ball or hand-eye coordination, I'm fairly good at it. That's just genetics from my dad. He's very athletic, very good sportsman in his day. Always super athletic, super sporty. I was very outgoing. I was very confident. I get that from my dad as well. Very caring. I get that from my mum. But yeah, I'd always be very bubbly kid, talking to my parents' friends, just getting out and about. I was always the confident kid at school, the class clown. I would always want people to, look at me or have the attention on me. So I lived in a pretty cool estate, which I actually only recently moved out of. Which we'll get into later, but we would ride our bikes around. I had heaps of friends in there. We'd ride our bikes around there and build dirt jumps and run around with no shoes on. And yeah, I had a pretty sick childhood, grew up in a pretty nice area. So very blessed, very grateful for that. And phones weren't really a thing. Like I was out kicking the footy or playing the soccer ball or skating or doing something. Like phones weren't really around. So very fortunate to have grown up in, I guess, the time before technology and then obviously still young enough to have had technology when I was at school and things like that. So very super fortunate for my whole childhood and upbringing. It's got me to exactly where I am today. So shout out mum and dad, yous are legends. Mwah. As I moved into high school, I went from the Christian primary school and I moved to a public school. That's in year 7 in Australia. So you go through prep, grade 1 to 6, and then year 7 is high school in Australia. I was still super athletic, still super sporty. That's when I was playing rugby league. I was my team captain, I was my club captain. So very much a leader. But that high school where I went to, the public school, now that I think back of it, is actually where it started to take a little bit of a turn for the worst, I guess you could say. I started to hang out with people who probably weren't the best for me to hang out with, the cool kids, as you could say. And yeah, we just started to get pretty interested in just dabbling with different things like alcohol and weed and things like that. So from a pretty young age, I was exposed to, I guess, drinking and partying, and then it went into things which I thought were harder, like weed. And growing up, I was always taught that drugs are really bad and I should steer clear from them. But as you get older and your friends are doing it and stuff like that, you sort of become inquisitive, and I wanted to try it as well. So yeah, I developed a bit of a name for myself with, I guess, the staff and the teachers for being a bit of trouble around that school. Just like the loud kid, the one who would shout out, still the class clown, but started to get into a little bit more trouble just with doing silly things like throwing bloody Ziploc bags full of water at different kids. And yeah, we were a bit of trouble, our group. I guess we thought we were pretty cool at the time. So from that, and I was still pretty sporty, still playing sports. As I got a little bit older, moved up a couple grades, I stopped playing sports altogether. PE or physical education at school was still my favorite subject, and I'd pretty well excel at it. But out of school, I wasn't really playing any sports. I stopped playing rugby league and started to get more into the drinking scene and partying every weekend. You know, we'd have house parties literally every weekend. Like, I don't even know how we figured out how to do something every weekend at the ripe age of like 17, you know, 16, 17. We were just partying every weekend, drinking. And this sort of led us, or myself, to go into a bit harder drugs, you know, like pills and MDMA and acid and things like that. So was exposed to all of that stuff at a fairly young age of, you know, 16, 17. We're in people's sheds just eating pills and smoking cones and things like that. So pretty crazy to think about, crazy to look back on. I started smoking cigarettes at, I think, 16, just because everyone else was doing it, and like I just thought it was a cool thing to do. It's just the people that you hang around, right? So it was normal for us to do that. It was weird if you weren't doing it. And then this sort of progressed, and you'd keep doing more drugs and eating more pingers on the weekend, or MD caps, like upping the dosage. I then actually got introduced to a drug called Xanax, and that became my favorite one. I was fully addicted to Xanax for a bit, and I actually even started selling it when I got into my back end years of high school. So I definitely led myself down the wrong path, the people that I was hanging out with, the environment that I was in. And at this point in my life, I was living full time with my dad. And that was in the estate where we were building dirt jumps and riding around and things like that. So I was living full time with my dad. It was just easier with school. I went to school closer, and my mum lived further down the coast. So I was a bit of a shit of a kid at this point. So I was smoking weed every day, sneaking out at nights to go and smoke with my friends. I was smoking cigarettes, doing who knows what on the weekends, drinking every weekend, eating pingers and MDMA and things like that. And one night I was actually looking after my brother, my younger brother, who's 7 years younger than me. I don't know how old he was at this point. I probably would have been 17, so maybe he was 10 or around that, maybe 8, 9, 10, around there. And my parents left me to look after him, and he was very easy to look after. Like, you'd just give him his iPad, you'd heat him up his dinner, and make him some popcorn, and he was sorted. This was like a Saturday night, and had a party that I was going to go to, and I had to look after my brother. So I said to him, I said, hey, his name's Jalen. I said, Jalen, can you put yourself to bed at 9 p.m? I'll let you stay up late, and I'm going to just go to my friend's house, but just don't tell dad. And he goes, yeah, all good. And then I was like, sweet as. So I snuck out and just made it look like I was asleep in bed for when my dad would get home. Jalen put himself to bed. Anyway, I get home at like 3 a.m. or something, and I wake up the next morning, and my dad's like, did you go out last night? And I was like, nah, what do you mean? And he's like, Jalen told me that you went out last night. What the fuck are you doing? Like, looking after your younger brother, why are you sneaking out, type thing. And I was like, oh, whatever, rah, rah, rah. I was just pissed off at my brother because he said that he wasn't going to tell dad, and he told dad. But, you know, that was just me, young and ignorant, and think that I'm invincible. So yeah, ended up having a big fight with him. And I remember this day so clearly. This is like one of my worst memories ever, probably. And I remember my stepmom, Ruth, came in, and she's like, oh, like blowing up, because this is my dad and her son. And she was blowing up at me, and I was just like, oh, whatever. She said something, and I said something really rude back to her. I can't remember exactly what. And she sort of stormed off and told my dad. And then I was walking up my stairs in my house at the time, and my dad came up to me, and he shaped up to me. He's never done that to me before. And like shaped up, and he said, don't you dare talk to my wife like that. And I said, just being young and stupid and ignorant and thinking that the world revolves around me, I said, hit me. I was 17, actually. I remember, because I hadn't turned 18, so I wasn't legal yet. So I was just using that to my advantage. I said, hit me. Do it, I dare ya. And he didn't hit me. But what he did do is he said, pack up all your shit. You're out of my house. And he kicked me out. And that night it was raining. It was pissing down rain, actually, and I cleared all of I packed a bag, and I went on my way and just walked to my mate's house, actually, until I found a way to get to my mum's house, which was further down the coast, about 45 minutes. So, and then after that, I went and got a few more things from home and whatnot, and sort of moved into my mum's house. But he was dead serious. He kicked me out, and I didn't actually speak to my dad for about a year after that, which is pretty funny looking back on it. Like, my dad and I are like best mates now, a lot of respect and love for each other. So yeah, I mean, that needed to happen. That's probably like one of the worst memories that I have in life. That was pretty shitty time for me, you know, just addicted to drugs. And yeah, I just went to my mum's and just kept doing the same thing, kept being a little shit of a kid. So yeah, I went and lived with my mum further down the coast, like I said, and I actually ended up leaving the high school that I was at, and I actually went to a trade college. So I wanted to be a tradie, and I was like, I hated school. Like, I just didn't agree with the schooling system. Just once again, thinking I'm the man, thinking that the world revolves around me. So I actually went and joined the trade college, got accepted into there. And I was always like a pretty smart kid. Like, when I wanted to, I could just sort of click into gear and sort of get what I want. So it's actually, when I went to go join that school, the trade college, it was a pretty hard process to get in. Like, you had to fully get selected, and I just, you know, kicked into gear and got accepted straight away. Luckily had the grades from prior years to actually get in. So I wanted to be an electrician for no other reason than I'd heard that it's the best paying trade. And that's all I really cared about. So that was the next step. So that was a bit of a step forward for me. I was still smoking every day, cigarettes and weed. And yeah, that was when I was sort of heavily into the Xanax. So I was even like having Xanax at trade college, which is like completely reckless now that I think about it. But that's what I was doing. That's part of the story, right? So when I was living with my mom, I was in a pretty bad point, like, in my life. That was a pretty low point. I actually asked to go and see a therapist because I was just a shit of a kid, you know, like, I was just swearing back to my mom and not doing what she would ask, and just really in a bad way, probably because of all the drugs and substances that I've been using leading up to this point. And I asked to go and see a therapist because I thought I actually had depression. I remember going and having a therapy session, and I was like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. So that continued on, and right before I graduated year 12 or high school in 2018, I actually got signed up to an apprenticeship, an electrical apprenticeship with my old boss, Lukey. So that was a massive moment for me. I'd been working towards that for ages. Like, that's the whole 2 years that I was at the trade college. That's the goal. You're trying to get signed up. So I'd been doing work experience with him for almost a year. And yeah, right before I graduated, I got signed up, which I was stoked. Got to get up and ring the bell at the last assembly. Assembly's like where we all get together at the school, and, you know, anyone who's got recently signed up gets to ring this bell. So that was sick. I was super stoked, and that sort of kicked me into gear a bit. You know, I had a job which I'd been working really hard to get, which is a career, you know. So I thought that this was super sick, and that actually made me stop smoking weed every day, because I was finding that I was a bit slow at work, and I'd forget things and I'd stuff up, and I really was interested in being an electrician at the time, and I wanted to go through, and I wanted this to be my job, and I had like dreams of owning my own electrical company and things like that. So it really kicked me into gear. You know, I was still drinking and partying and things like that, but it made me drop the other sort of drugs, like the Xanax and the selling of the Xanax and the weed every day. So it was definitely a big part of my life. A big accomplishment that happened was me getting signed up. So that's actually one of my my most fond memories was getting signed up, which was sick. So massive pivotal moment in my life, realistically. I got back in contact with my dad after about a year, and I ended up moving back into my dad's house because it was easier for me to get hours up for my license, and it was easier for me to get to work. That's sort of where it goes. I started my apprenticeship, and I worked through, stayed at the same company for the 4 years of my apprenticeship, going through TAFE, which is where you go to like learn all of the theory parts of the trade. I never really paid too much attention. I was still drinking and partying literally every weekend at this point, especially being a tradie. Like, that's what you do. You just smoke and drink beers and talk about chicks and things like that. I didn't pay too much attention to the TAFE work, but as I sort of mentioned earlier, when I sort of wanted to apply myself, I could, and I'd just like pull things out of the hat. So I passed and never had to resit anything through my TAFE journey. And we have this final exam called your capstone for when you're trying to get your electrical license. It's this massive 2-week block of just literally tests every day, practical and theory tests. And it's super hard. Like, everyone puts so much pressure on it. All the TAFE teachers, all the previous people who have been through it, all my friends who are already qualified electricians had been through it. They're like, oh, like, it's quite hard. And I managed to pass that first try as well. Had no resits and just smashed that out of the park. So really just like solidified in my mind that when I need to, I can click into gear and I'm smarter than I think. So that was sick. I stayed with the same company for about 5 years. I ended up, after being qualified, I was earning about 100K a year and had a company car, and yeah, I was pretty sorted. Was saving for a house. I was pretty sorted in terms of like life success, right? All of this, I was still drinking and partying every weekend. So through here, I've turned 18 and, we're clubbing now and going out, MDMA in the club. So you'd come into work pretty, how you going on a Monday morning? It was just the normal. That's literally what you'd do. You'd work all week doing big hours. Like, we would do big hours, like 10, 12-hour days. And then you'd make heaps of money on overtime. And then you'd blow all your money on the weekend and buy bags and buy MD and buy drinks and go to the same club and see the same people. And then you'd wake up feeling crap on Monday going, oh, I'm never doing that again. And then you'd go and do it the exact same thing the next weekend. So it was just literally like the constant cycle that you live in. In Australia, it seems to be the complete normal thing to do. So luckily for me, throughout this whole journey of my apprenticeship and working and partying still on the weekends, my dad had actually instilled some pretty good saving skills into me. So I was still saving quite a bit of money. Luckily, he had control of my finances when I was a bit younger. Otherwise, I would have had absolutely nothing and just spent it all on useless stuff. So I had quite a bit of savings and I was doing pretty well in the bank account side of things. All right. So throughout this, we're going to take a little bit of a step back and go into gym. Okay. So I started the gym just before I was 18. I remember I had to get my dad to sign like a parent's waiver or something. So it was literally like a month before my 18th birthday. I'm now 22. Just about to turn 23. The gym it was so hard for me to get into the gym. I was super insecure about my body, super insecure about my strength. I was always the skinny kid. I was the last to hit puberty. I was the last to have a growth spurt. I was always the shortest kid. I was just super insecure about my strength. Like, all the other boys were training and they were lifting weights and doing all of this jazz, and I just would never do it. I thought that I was the man. I had a big ego when I was younger. It's only something that I've worked through in the last year or two. And I'd always want to be the best at what I'm doing. And in a space like that, where I'm the smallest and weakest, I'm not the best. So I was really scared about going in. So I finally signed up just before I was 18, and purely only because everyone else was doing it. I was like, shit, I better get in here, It was very I wasn't going consistently at all. I'd go maybe once or twice a week. Was still partying on the weekends. And as this progressed, I'd go maybe pretty good for a month or two, and then I'd sort of fall off, and again, month or two, and then sort of fall off. And then my average was probably about 2-3 days a week. I started going properly and taking it somewhat seriously around probably 20 years old. So 2 years in, that's when I started to go probably 4 or 5 days a week and started to take it a little bit more seriously. And I found that I was going, say, 5 days a week, having the protein shakes and creatine and doing all of the gym bro jazz. And then I'd just go and party on the weekends. And I just felt like I was just doing all this work throughout the week for no result. You know, I started to see some pretty good results in the gym, like as in building muscle wise and things like that. But in my head, I still had like the biggest body dysmorphia, and I was still very insecure. Like I still saw myself as a very skinny and like the little kid that I always thought I was. Yeah, I didn't really like looking in the mirror. I'm not where I want to be. Like I just need to get a little bit bigger. Things like this. Like I would never be content or happy with where I'm at. So I was always sort of chasing more and wanted to have more muscle. And when I'd get this, I'd be happy. And when I'd do this, when I get to this weight, man, I'd love to rep these. It was pretty toxic, but it was definitely the first self-improvement journey that I'd gone on is the gym. I'm super, super grateful for my younger self that I continued to go to the gym and I continued to seek progression in there and up the weights and upped my strength and stayed consistent with it. It was the only thing in my life other than partying that I was consistent with. And it taught me a lot, the gym. So that's why I'm so bullish on the gym and getting in there and health and fitness and things like that. Fitness is the first step in my eyes, and it's just because it was the first step for me. So throughout this period as well, so I started gym at around 18, and at around 19, right in the middle of COVID, I actually got myself a girlfriend. She was actually my next door neighbor, so I just got a puppy as well. So my, I guess like was inviting, and our parents were friends, so they'd come over for like neighbor drinks during COVID because you couldn't do anything else. And she would come over to play with the puppy. And yeah, anyway, we started to hang out a bit and started to date. I fell super hard in love. Like I was just like, I wanted to be with her all the time. This was my first proper girlfriend. I actually wanted a girlfriend at the time. I was like, fuck, this would be really good. You know, like I could just stay at home a little bit more, potentially like stop drinking, stop doing the things as much that I'm doing, because I started to, I guess, get sick of partying and doing the same thing every week and feeling like crap every week. So I thought, far out, this would be really good for me. And then that sort of just got thrown in my lap by the universe, this gorgeous blonde girl that lived right next door to me. So that was sick. I was cheering. But yeah, I fell hard in love. I mean, we both did, right? We'd do everything together. And that actually became the downfall. We saw each other too much because we were right next door. So from the moment that we met, really, we would stay at each other's house every night. So, and we dated for 3 years. So literally every single day for 3 years, we saw each other, we were talking. By the end of it, we had nothing to talk about. So throughout this whole relationship, like I met her when I didn't really even go to the gym. And throughout this whole relationship, I was working on myself. I was getting way more muscle on my frame. I was gymming hard. I was consistent in the gym. I was working hard. My bank account was looking pretty good. I started reading. I started looking into the law of attraction. Like this is when it all started to sort of start for me in the self-development and self-improvement space. God bless my ex-girlfriend. She taught me a lot. She matured me a lot. She actually did stop me drinking a lot more than I was. She actually stopped me smoking cigarettes, which is massive. You know, she's a great girl. I have absolutely not a bad word to say about her. But, you know, as I was improving myself, I outgrew her. I outgrew the relationship. I wanted more for my life. I wanted more for myself. And yeah, I just outgrew her. I realized that I couldn't do that. I couldn't get to the level that I wanted to get to with a partner at 21 years old. When I first got into that relationship 3 years ago, I was just this scrawny little insecure version of me. And now I was looking pretty good. I was way more confident in myself and in life. I wasn't drinking as much. I was a completely different man to what I was when I met her. So I was thinking in my head, I was like, shit, like, who knows what I could get out there now? Like I'm 21. I need to freaking go out there, have a crack at life, at chicks, at everything, you know? And having a partner at that time just wasn't the right thing for me. At the end of 2022, November, I broke up with her, and it was one of the hardest conversations that I've ever had. In my mind, I was like, yeah, I need to do this. I'd been thinking about it for a little while, and it just needed to happen. It was my choice. I did it. I broke up with her. She had no clue it was coming. She was crying. It was one of the hardest conversations that I've ever had, but it needed to be had. So a couple of months later, I went, wow, maybe she is the one for me, and maybe I've just fucked this up. So as I said, it was my doing. I broke up with her. So then I tried to go back to her, right? And she was at the stage that I was at when I initially broke up with her. So it's like the roles reversed. So I broke her heart 3 months ago, and then now she's like worked on, like gone through it all and gone through the emotions. And now I'm like, okay, well, I want to get back with you. And she's like, oh, like I just want to work on myself at the moment. And I just got completely heartbroken. Like I'm talking completely heartbroken, as in I can't think of anything else other than her. At this point, I'd moved out too by myself. So I was just alone for majority of the time because my housemate was never home. So I'd just be in my head like all day. I just wanted to work more because then I'd just not think about it. Yeah, that was pretty tough, but you just have to work through it. And I was like, we sort of had some conversations, and we're like, look, if it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. That was November 2022. So it was Christmas, New Year's, and at this point I was sort of not drinking already. I remember actually on New Year's Eve, I was in the gym. So this is New Year's Eve 2022. I was in the gym and I started to get a sore pain in my tummy there. My family had a big New Year's Day party planned for at our house. So that was half the reason why I wasn't drinking that night, because I wanted to be fresh for the next day. So I had like a DJ coming and everything, and I had this really sore pain and I was like, wow, I don't know what this is. Slept, woke up, still there. So I end up going to my parents for the party, and I have like one drink and I'm like, oh, like it feels a bit better. 2 drinks, feeling a bit better. I'm like, oh shit, maybe I just need to drink this thing away. So anyway, smack a few drinks, can't even feel it. And I'm like, fuck, we are on. So anyway, the party goes and it's such a sick party. Anyway, woke up the next day and we actually went out on my mate's boat and drinking the whole day again. Like I'm talking sucking back boxes of cruises and things like that. Having loads of fun out on the wake boat, sunny as days. It's the 2nd of January right now. And anyway, we go back, and that night, I cannot sleep because my stomach is just so sore. I'm like, what the hell is come back? The next day I wake up, I remember driving with Keen, my best mate, and like he was going over bumps and things. I'm like, dude, like you slow down, eh? He's like, bro, I'm barely moving. I was like, far out, I don't know what's wrong with me. I get home and I'm fully in the fetal position on the couch, and my dad's like, dude, you need to go to the doctor. So he takes me to the doctor, and the doctor's like pushing on me and stuff, and he's like, man, I really recommend that you go to the hospital. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Dude, I'm not going to the hospital. This is 1 week into my 2 weeks holiday. I get 2 weeks holiday as a Sparky a year. And I was like, dude, it's only halfway. If I have to get like an operation or some shit, I'm going to lose a week of my holidays. I'm going to be pissed off. And my dad's like, Cody, you going to the hospital. I was like, fuck. Anyway, I go to the hospital. I'm waiting there. I'm in pain. Takes like a couple hours. I get in and the doctor goes, oh, we need to do a few tests. It might be your appendix. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't even know what an appendix does or what it is, but sweet, let me know. So I'm just laying there eating freaking hospital sandwiches and things like that, waiting for these results to come back. And anyway, long story short, that night I'm getting rushed into operation and I'm getting my appendix removed. It's like apparently one of the worst that they've seen, and it's like minutes away from bursting. Like we have to go in tonight to surgery. So anyway, I get knocked out, wake up the next day. I'm in so much, like I can barely move. I'm in a hospital bed. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? The doctor tells me that I can't do anything for at least 6 weeks. So I can't work, I can't train, I can't do anything. Mind you, at this point, all I did was train. I was an absolute gym junkie. So all I did was work and train. I was pretty stoked about not being able to work, but I was rattled about not being able to gym. So he said a good exercise that you can do is you can pick up your phone and put it back down. I said, hey, what do you mean, dude? So it was keyhole surgery. So I was literally like immobilized for 5 or 6 weeks. I just moved out just before Christmas in 2022. This is now the 3rd of January, 2023. So I'm by myself. I can't really move. My housemate's never really home. I'm like, what the fuck? And I thought, fuck, this is gonna be the best comeback ever. Like that's what I was thinking to myself. I'd just broken up with my missus. I'm firing. Like I've had this setback, but I'm going to make the most of it. So I started learning about online incomes and how I could make money online, because I knew at this point that I didn't want to be a sparky or an electrician for the rest of my life. So I was learning about this, and that led me to buy Iman Gadji's course and start an online agency, all right? And I thought, bang, dude, this is my freaking ticket out of the matrix. I am gonna crush this shit. I start my first business, I go through it all. I'm spending a bit of the money that I'd saved up, but it didn't matter. I had like this purpose about me, this mission. I was like, dude, this is freaking it. Like, I am stoked with this. So I thought I was gonna like make so much money with that. Anyway, so I set all that up, and this opportunity actually came up. So I'd saved about like 45 grand. At this point, I had pre-approval. I was actually going to house inspections with my dad and looking at places to buy. So I had all of this money for a house deposit, and this opportunity actually came up. Mike Thurston is hosting his first ever mastermind in Dubai. If you don't know Mike Thurston, he's a gym influencer, big YouTuber. He's been in the game forever. I absolutely love him. And just like watched all of his videos back then. Like, I'm in this new space. I'm building this online business. I'm working on myself. I'm training super hard. Like, I'm not drinking, so that day on the boat was the last time that I'd had a drink. I was sober, I had so much clarity, I was building this online business. I saw this opportunity come up. I sent it to a few of my friends, and my housemate I was very close with, and my friends talked me into it. They're like, dude, you have to go. This is an opportunity. And it was. And you know what? I just bought it. And so I bought this mastermind in Dubai with Mike Thurston. And I dreamed of like living in Dubai, and I really wanted to go to Dubai. So it all sort of just worked out really well. I was like, far out, this is like pretty crazy. I've just bought this. All in all, that trip for 1 week in Dubai and the weekend with Mike Thurston and 9 other gents who were in the mastermind cost me about 30 grand. So that was a big chunk of my money. But you know, that trip did a lot for me. It solidified that this life that I see people live on YouTube, this life that I see people live on the internet, dude, these people are just people, like just like me. It really like made it clear in my mind that I can live that life too. I can do this stuff, but it's just a matter of doing it and taking the risks. And that was a big risk for me to take, to spend all that money. I was floating the idea to people. So about 6 months prior to that, the boys and I had booked a trip to Bali for my birthday, mine and my mate's birthday. So June that year, I knew that was coming up. In about January, February, when I'd started this online business, my best mate Lindsay and I had said, maybe we could move over there, dude, move to Bali. And we'd sort of just like floated the idea, and we were like, fuck, that'd be pretty cool, bro. Like, just give this online thing a try. Like, and we were just like super scary and super like just in the air, like was nothing solidified about it at all. But the trip to Dubai, being surrounded around these people that I'd never been surrounded around before, Mike Thurston, all these other people making online money, doing these crazy things, I was sort of floating the idea that, hey, I might be moving to Bali. And they're like, dude, you have to do it. Like, you are gonna crush it. And I got back and started planning it all with Keen to move to Bali. So we had this trip booked already. We were just like, stuff it, dude, we're going. So the Dubai trip was in March, and we were going to move to Bali in June. And mind you, we didn't tell anyone that we were doing. I didn't tell my parents that I was moving overseas until like 1 month before I left, just because I didn't want any negative sort of like say on what we were doing. I just wanted it fully positive, and I wanted to just go and tackle it head first and do what I wanted to do. In that time from March till June is when I just started to like lock in, dude. I was just firing at this business. I was signing clients to my agency. I started running very briefly, you know, like maybe once a week, just like huffing and puffing on a 10K. That was when I actually first went to Mega Run. So the agency was getting a little bit of traction, not too much, but you know, I had really big high hopes for it. You know, like everything that I do, and I still do this now, I think that I'm gonna really crush it and succeed at it. So I had the mindset that this was just gonna like blow up. This was my ticket out. So I went part-time in my job with the intention to quit entirely as soon as possible. Anyway, the time comes or my last day of full-time work was June 9th, 2023. On the 12th, we all left to Bali. Like I said, we had a boys trip. This whole year from the 2nd of January to the 10th of June is when I had my first drink. So that was my biggest stint going sober ever. Other than that, I was drinking every weekend and maybe had like max 3 weeks off until like another birthday came up or something. So very much introduced to alcohol and partying and drinking and socializing that way very early in my life. And this was the first time that I'd ever had like time off. And I realized that in that time that I couldn't socialize without alcohol. Like I didn't know how to make friends without alcohol. All of my current friend group thought I was weird, thought I was a dog because I wasn't coming to the pub with them. And I had to figure out how to actually socialize, how to actually talk to people, how to actually make friends without alcohol. It was all new to me, right? But by the time that I got to that 6 months, by the time that I got to having a drink again, I was feeling fantastic. Like I'd overcome all of these barriers. I'd started to make friends. I'd started to do things by myself. I'd started to gain a lot of this confidence back that I had from when I was a young kid, but I'd lost over the time of the substance abuse, which was I was super impressed with myself and super confident in myself and my abilities to mingle and talk to people, talk to girls, talk to dudes. So then I went back and had drinks. It just amplified that even more. So I was just like the most confident guy. So we actually went to an engagement party right before we left to Bali, and I was just firing, dude. I was just like on one. So we leave to Bali on the Monday. So that engagement party was on the Saturday. We leave to Bali on the Monday, and we get there, smacking drinks at the airport. I'm just with the boys. Like this is like my send-off. I'm not gonna see my mates again for 6 months because we're all going overseas. They're flying home and Keen and I are staying there, right? So this is like the farewell session, if you will. I land in Bali, we're having the best time. We're doing all these things. We're in the best villas. It's just so sick. Like life's just a movie. I've just quit my job. I'm gonna stay overseas, like in the sun. Like I am fired up. We drink for a week straight. I'm talking partying every night, waking up, drinking again. It gets to about a week in. And mind you, this whole time, like I'm not sleeping that much, not eating that much, drinking heaps. I'm feeling mint. I'm like, what the hell, dude? I could freaking do this forever. Like I'm the man. And about 6 or 7 days in, it all just catches up to me and I just get so freaking sick, dude. Like so sick. The holiday with the lads was for 2 weeks and I was only present for a week, bro. The second week I was just like, couldn't do anything. I was bedridden. I wasn't drinking. And I was just like, wow, it hit me like a steam train. And all of this 6 months of work that I'd just been working on myself, building up this confidence, like talking to chicks in the gym and looking at dudes in the eyes and all of this stuff that I just built up, I've just lost. I felt like a shell of myself. I'm talking like I felt horrible, guys. And it just made me realize, I was like, wow, like I don't want to do that for a long time. Like I've just thrown away all of this work and it just made me feel so shit about myself. So anyway, the boys leave and Keen and I are just in a different country. It's like, wow, okay, this is real. We're just here in Bali in a different country. You know, we just quit our jobs. We have no income. We're just gonna make it work. We're just two guys like ready to roar, dude. So it takes me about a month, I reckon, to get back to my full self, like firing again. But Bali was one of the best things that I've ever done in my life. This is what I say, like I needed to leave the Gold Coast because I'd had, like I said, all of these friendships built off going out and drinking and partying and snorting cocaine. And all of these people had an idea of me, or they might have had videos in their camera roll, or they might have had preconceived ideas of who I was. I'd been doing a lot of work on myself, but these people still saw me for that old Cody. Moving to Bali and people meeting me for who I am now, the version of me who I was in that present moment. They didn't have any preconceived ideas of what I used to be. So when I moved there and people met me, I was the fitness guy, I was the YouTuber, I was the content creator, I was the guy having a crack, I was the guy who doesn't drink, I was the guy who doesn't party, who doesn't stay up late, I was the discipline king. These are what people are meeting me for. And when people knew me for that guy, it made me realize that that's who I am as well. And it made me comfortable in being myself, not having people think that, you know, I'm just a partier or bullshit, like he's just putting it on. Like I have videos of him on so much gear, rah, rah, rah. It's like, dude. So it really solidified in my mind who I was. And that is the most beneficial thing that I got out of Bali. But other than that, we did some pretty crazy stuff. We started a few businesses which failed. We built a whole course. So we like made videos and like structured out this whole course. And it completely flopped because we didn't know how to market it. I got rid of the agency because it just didn't really align with what I was doing, and I wanted to do all of the self-development stuff that we were sort of, that was our niche. Like we wanted to help people go through the same journey that we'd just been through, from like partying and drugs and things like that to fitness and confidence. And so that was way more aligned with who I was. So I got rid of the agency. We started a YouTube. I started training Muay Thai. I met some of the most amazing people that I've ever met. Shout out Zach, shout out Cha-Cha, shout out Elds. Like I just met some really crazy people, once again, who solidified in my mind that what I'm doing is correct and I'm on the right path, and which really made it evident to me, okay? I fell off my scooter. I got pulled over for no helmet, literally the day that the boys left. So we were moving to our new place of residence that we were going to stay for the rest of the time. And I got pulled over by the cops, and they say, oh, you have to go to court. And I'm like, fuck, like what have I just done, dude? I learned so much about myself. I worked on myself so much. Worked on myself, my business harder than ever. My back was against the wall. We weren't making money. I started coaching. I actually got a coach for coaches. So like a business coach who helped me heaps. I changed multiple people's lives, made a bit of money from the coaching, flew to Bangkok to watch Keen, my best mate, win his first ever pro boxing match against none other than the Jack Hopkins. Shout out Jackie. I did my first public speaking event, which was so sick. I was so nervous, sort of bombed it, but you know, it's all part of the process. I completely ran out of money once, as in like I just didn't even have enough money to buy my next meal. And that's what I'm talking about, like your back just against the wall. I just made it work, and I signed a client that day. So I was able to continue buying food and continue living life. But I'm talking, I had literally $0 in my bank account. I have lifelong connections and learnings from there. I learned a lot about myself, a lot about my past. And it was just the best. So 6 months over there in a foreign country, we were scooting around. Like when I say freedom, that's what I think about. Just scooting around with your best mate, living the dream, sun's out, you're tan as, you're working on your passion. Oh, dude. So after 6 months over there, living like an absolute king, it was time to come home. So on the 12th of December, 2023, is when we came home. And like I said, initially I was so freaking excited, man. Like I couldn't wait to see everyone, all my friends, all my family, and just like catch up and be back, like create a new routine. I was like this new man. I couldn't wait to show everyone like how much I'd learned. And I was just really excited to come home and just start crushing it at home. I had no plans for what I was gonna do or where I was gonna end up, which excites me. So I come home, I land, we're a bit tired, you know, my dad picks me up from the airport, our other mate Joshy's there as well, which was sick, just got to see one of the brothers straight away. And we drive home, drop Keen home, and before we went home, I actually went to Woolworths, which is just like a grocery shopping place in Australia. We pull in, and it's just the Woolworths that I've been to for my whole life. I'm just like driving back down the same road. And I walk in, and in Canggu, where we lived in Bali, everyone's fit, everyone's jacked. No one walks around with a shirt on. Everyone's like healthy. Everyone's like conscious of themselves and who they are, working on themselves. They all choose to be there. I walk into this Woolworths, everyone's fat. Everyone's unhealthy. Everyone's just going through the motions of life. And it just like clicked in my head, and I was like, what am I doing here, dude? Like I had this like instant like, fuck moment. And I really was like, oh shit, what am I doing? And then we leave Woolies, go home, and I just walk into my old room, which is where I've just been through all of this stuff. This whole story that I've just told you has come from pretty much this room. And I walk in, it's exactly the same. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I had to fully move my room around. My room hasn't been changed in 10 years, dude. I had to fully change it around just for, I couldn't be in the same room because that was the old version of me's room. So I had to fully change it around. So it was just like, wow, what the hell, dude? What am I doing here? I've just gone from all of this freedom to just back in where I used to be. So I had to sort of adjust to that and sort of allow it to happen. Now I made the decision before I came back that I was gonna stay sober over Christmas and New Year's, which is just like rogue for me. Christmas and New Year's is like my favorite time of year. I love just drinking with the family and catching up with friends and partying and doing all this fun shit. But I made the decision that I wanted to stay. I didn't know how long I wanted to stay sober for, but I knew that I was going to go the Christmas and New Year period sober. And we also decided before we came back that we wanted to run a marathon on the 1st of January and just start the year off with a bang, like get the new year ticking, right? So, and we wanted to do that with little to no training. So we only trained like 3 weeks for that marathon, okay? So this brings me straight into 2024. 1st of Jan, it's completely pissing down rain. Like I'm talking clapping thunder. It's just hammering rain, like proper crap conditions. And we set out to run 42 Ks. Now I ended up doing it. I did it in 4 hours and 22 minutes and it hurt, dude. It really hurt. But it was the fact of me doing it. I wanted to start the year on a high. I wanted to start the year firing, and that was what I decided to do. I didn't even really run. I hadn't run in the whole 6 months that I was in Bali, but we wanted to do something challenging, and we'd just done all this challenging shit. Like when we moved overseas, quit our jobs, did all of these things, the challenges start to become less scary and less hard and less intimidating. So we wanted to do something that was quite scary to us, and that's exactly what we landed on, okay? So this leads me perfectly in. So I started running with like the intention that I didn't even think that I wanted to run really, but I wanted to do that marathon because it was hard. Now, after that day, I was setting my intentions and goals for the year, and I set the goal that I wanted to do something big and uncomfortable or scary every week, just to get out of the comfort zone, because I know that's where all the growth is. I've just spent a year, 6 months getting out of my comfort zone, and I just wanted to continue that. So 1 week, that thing was going to a run club by myself. So I didn't run after the marathon for I think 4 weeks. And that week I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to Mega Run and I'm gonna go there by myself because that scares the shit out of me. So I go to Mega Run on that Sunday. The night before, I'm giving myself every excuse not to go. I'm like, oh nah, like you're still a bit sore. Like my hip was still sore from the marathon. Like, nah, like you know, like I'm talking, I couldn't even barely sleep. I was trying to give myself every excuse in the book, but I did it anyway. I went to that Mega Run, and when I'd previously gone to Mega Run, the founders, Meg and Will, weren't there. They were overseas doing something. I didn't really know who they were. I sort of knew who Meg was, just through Instagram. So I rock up to this Mega Run, I'm shitting myself. I see someone that I know, so I just freaking talk to him the whole time. And on the run, I like sort of light up, right? So I'm giving people high fives, saying good morning and stuff, because it's so easy. Like I'm just running past people. Just by chance, I end up running next to Meg, and she sees me and she notices me and she sort of likes the energy, which is super cool. They give out this thing called Mega Runner of the Week, and it's someone who is inspiring others around them or pushing their own limits, right? And she comes up to me afterwards and she said, hey Cody, I really love the energy. I just wanted to let you know that you were nominated for Mega Runner of the Week. Love the energy, keep it up. So that was super sick, and I was like, oh wow, like it's really nice to be noticed like that and I was literally just being myself, you know, like out in that run is where I can really express myself, and like you're just running past people high-fiving and yelling good morning with your shirt off. And so that was sick. I was like, oh wow, like I've just put myself out there. I've done something super uncomfortable and it's come back instantly. Anyway, so I'm like, dude, I'm gonna keep coming back here, whether people come with me or not. The next week I go back and by chance, I'm running next to Will, which is Meg's partner. It's funny telling this story because now I'm just so close with him. Now, Meg must have said something to Will, or I know this now, that Meg said something to Will and said, hey, like, keep an eye out for this Cody guy. And he's like, Will goes, nah, you know, like, he looks like a pretty boy. Anyway, so the next week, run next to Will. I'm doing the same thing. I'm high-fiving, morning, high-fiving people, telling people their dogs look cute. So Will gets to see the energy. Will comes up to me and we have a pretty good conversation after the thing, and I end up getting Mega Runner of the Week. I'm like, oh shit, this is freaking cool, dude. And then the following week was Australia Day, and they actually approached me and said, hey dude, like, we love your energy, we've been talking about ya, and we would potentially love to bring you on as a hype lord to help run Mega Run. And I was like, whoa, like, this opportunity is just getting thrown at me, dude. Like, this is crazy. I'm like, wow, like, and this scared the shit out of me. Like, scared the crap out of me, dude. Like, coming into a new group and then like having to jump up and host the run club, or help host the run club and do speeches and introduce people. Like I said, I would just go and sit on the outskirts and sort of just talk to people that I know. And now I'm like having to come in and help facilitate the whole event. So super scary, but like I said, this year was about noticing the scary things and leaning into them and doing them anyway. So I thought, wow, this is such a good opportunity. So I joined the crew, and little did I know that that would be one of the best things that I've ever done in my life. Like, it's completely changed my life. Just being surrounded around people like the other hype lords, becoming really close with Will and Meg. Like, Will and I are now like really good mates, which is so sick for me to say. And you know, like, ever since I've met them and started hanging around with these people and like upgraded my environment, my life has literally exploded, like more than I could ever try to explain to you. I've been learning more about life, about business, about relationships, about sales, communication, just like, and my life is like super crazy. I've moved out into this beautiful house that we're in right now with 4 of my like super close mates now. And you know, we all just push each other. We're the iron's sharpening iron. Like, we're pushing each other. We got weekly challenges. We're all fit. We're all healthy. We're all pushing each other to be even fitter and even healthier and make more money and have deeper conversations. And my life is just a movie, dude. My social media has grown rapidly after a few conversations and things with Will and Meg, just about being myself. And you know, now it's just grown to, at making this video, I'm at nearly 32,000 followers on Instagram, whereas when I met them I was on 1,800. So everything's sort of falling into place, and I believe it's solely from just doing the right things and being on the right path and staying true to myself and speaking my truth and being authentic and showing that, and helping other people and following my purpose, following my passion. And you know, I've been smashing some big feats. I've been pushing my own limits and inspiring you to push your limits as well. And that's what really lights me up. I love this shit. I feel as though I have a responsibility to positively impact the world, and this video is just one of the stepping stones towards that. And it really excites me. It lights me up. I can't wait to see the journey that lays ahead. And I don't know exactly where that's going, and that's perfectly fine. I have an inner knowing that everything's going to work out. And I just have been shown too many times by the universe that if I just keep pursuing what I'm doing and keep doing the right thing and keep showing integrity and keep showing up consistently for myself every single day. And it looks like it happens overnight, but it's just all of the constant wins every single day, the not letting yourself off the hook, the not letting yourself down, the keeping your word to yourself, that all add up. That leads us to Literally right now, this is my first YouTube video. I'm making this channel to inspire you to push past your limits by continually pushing past mine. I want to hold myself to the highest standard possible to show you that you can do the exact same. Like, who tells you that you have to drink to be social? Who tells you that you have to go to uni and get a job that you don't like? Like, I'm here to prove to you that you can do what you want to do. Follow your passion. Follow your purpose. Go all in on things. Like, don't leave it to the guesswork. Try things out for yourself. Question your beliefs. That's what this life's all about, and that's what this channel's all about. I'm so far away from where I plan to be or where I'm going, but these are all just stepping stones. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm just getting warmed up in the fact of, like, I'm learning and taking in so much knowledge at the moment that I feel like a new man every 2 weeks that go past. So it's super exciting times, and I'm so stoked that you're here for the journey with me. You're gonna learn a lot. Hopefully this channel inspires the hell out of you. Hopefully this video inspires the hell out of you, and thank you so much for watching. I freaking love you. Like, comment, subscribe, send this video to a friend who you think could get inspired by it, and let's drop the drink, baby. Woo!